Good evening. You're watching the news at 7:30 on ATV. I'm Anne Sim.
And I'm Edna. Here's a look at tonight's top stories.
Drama as protesters interrupt political reform seminar attended by Chief Secretary.
LegCo president slams storming of the building on Friday as unacceptable.
Financial Secretary urges public to reconsider cutting the number of mainland tourists. There was drama today inside and outside a political reform seminar attended by Chief Secretary Carrie Lam and Basic Law Committee member Rao Goping.
The protesters are angry that the pair focused on how the official nominating committee would select chief executive candidates, ignoring their calls for civil nomination. Emily Sue reports.
The drama began when protesters outside the City University venue tried to stop Chief Secretary Carrie Lam from entering. Led by Joshua Wong, head of student activist group Scholarism, the protesters asked why Lam refused to consider civil nomination, the notion that ordinary people can pick the candidates for the 2017 chief executive election. The group also tried to hand Lam a toy hammer. That's because earlier this year, she said Basic Law Committee member Rao Goping set the tone on political reform with one beat of the gong by ruling out civil nomination. After telling Wong that he should know how to respect others, Lam took the group's petition but refused to accept the hammer.
We just hope the CE and the government to respect the opinion and the survey conducted by the HKU of about 66% of people support civil nomination.
Inside the venue, Lam reiterated that the nominating committee has the sole authority to pick chief executive candidates and said the seminar should focus on how the committee would do its job via democratic procedures as stated in the Basic Law. The Chief Secretary added she's confident by next month the government should be able to finish the report on the first consultation on political reform, which ended on the 3rd of May. Rao, who was also invited to the seminar, echoed Lam. He warned all not to politicize and complicate the simple concept of letting the nominating committee pick candidates to run for the city's top job. His remarks angered members of the group Socialist Action, who rushed to the stage to interrupt his speech. They were angry that none of the speakers mentioned civil nomination. The seminar had to be put on hold for about 5 minutes. In a separate development, Justice Chief Rimsky-Yoon said the Occupy Central movement will definitely include illegal activities, as the leaders have made it clear from the start that it is a civil disobedience campaign. He urged everyone to think twice before joining the group's plan to block streets in the city's business heart if the government fails to roll out a universal suffrage plan the organizers approve of. Citing the 2003 rally where 500,000 people took to the streets to protest against a national security law, Yoon said there are plenty of legal channels for Hong Kongers to express their opinions. The Justice Chief refused to comment on claims Occupy Central is being used by anti-China forces to take over the government. Emily Sue, ATV News.
The LegCo president says the council's commission will meet on Tuesday to discuss how a group of protesters managed to storm the building on Friday and come up with measures to ensure it won't happen again.
Sang Sing said it was unacceptable that a staff member was hurt in the scuffles, adding that the police were only called in when the protest intensified. This was a scene that LegCo had never encountered since it was opened at Tamar in 2011. A group of about 50 protesters managed to break through security and storm the building. These demonstrators, who were opposed to government plans to build 2 new towns in the northeastern New Territories, scuffled with security officers, and one guard ended up in hospital after he was pushed in the chaos. LegCo President Sang Sing made it clear today that it was unacceptable that a staff member got hurt. He told reporters that the Legislative Council Commission will meet on Tuesday to discuss how the group managed to breach security and try to come up with measures to boost security to ensure there's no repeat of Friday's drama. The LegCo chief also believes that the protesters' decision to storm the building might have been premeditated. The LegCo Secretariat came under fire from pro-government lawmakers for its handling of the whole fiasco.
We noticed that during the most part of the afternoon, members of the public who went into the lobby area behaved very peacefully, and so they were allowed to stay in the lobby. However, towards late evening, another group of people forced themselves into the lobby, and the situation quickly became out of control. That was why, at that stage, the Secretariat decided to enlist the help of the police. And I believe that they did the right thing.
The LegCo chief insisted that the general public is always allowed access to the lobby. And even when the new building was being constructed, research was done to include protest areas for them.
We certainly want the LegCo complex to remain open and friendly to the public. At the same time, of course, we must make sure that all the proceedings inside the building must be able to carry on peacefully, smoothly, and nobody inside the complex should be under any kind of threat for their personal safety.
Tsang also warned that anyone who disrupted a LegCo meeting was breaking the law, and that such actions were not in the public interest. Financial Secretary John Tsang has urged the public to consider the adverse effects on the economy and employment by cutting the number of mainland tourists coming here.
Tsang hopes the issue will not damage Hong Kong's image as a friendly and hospitable city. The latest retail sales figures out this week showed a 9.8% slump in April compared to a year ago, the lowest in 5 years. Financial Secretary John Tsang says he's very concerned about the falling figures. Writing on his blog today, Tsang says if the macroeconomic slump continues, the knock-on effect will be a rise in the jobless rate, which is now at 3.1%. Tsang said although the drop does not indicate whether it is related to mainland tourists, he believes it may be due to a change in their spending habits, as the biggest slump was recorded in sales of jewelry, watches, clocks and valuable gifts, which are down by almost 40%. He urged the community to look at the situation from a different perspective when considering cutting the number of mainland visitors, such as the impact it will have on the economy, employment and people's livelihoods. Tsang said there needs to be a balance between the positive aspects and the perceived problems. He hopes the issue will not damage Hong Kong's reputation as a very welcoming and hospitable city, which it has earned through many years of hard work. Tsang added that violent protests against mainland tourists over the past few months have only allowed the protesters to vent their frustrations and have not solved any problems. The tourists were branded locusts by the protesters, who blamed them for overcrowding in the city. Last week, Chief Executive Leung suggested that the number of mainland visitors could be slashed by 20% to ease the overcrowding concerns. But Commerce Minister Greg So has warned there will be a price to pay if fewer mainlanders are allowed to come here. He noted that there was a 2.5% drop in mainland arrivals for the Dragon Boat Festival weekend compared with 2013. Caroline Mack, chairwoman of the Hong Kong Retail Management Association, backed So and has warned that cutting mainland tourists will affect the economy. She said without the visitors, there will be negative growth, but it will be difficult to predict the actual loss if the numbers are limited.
2 police officers were injured on the mainland today after an explosion at a fast food restaurant in Leung province. Officers rushed to the restaurant after getting an anonymous phone call at around 9:30 a.m, claiming there would be an explosion there within 5 minutes. They managed to get everyone out of the building before an explosion ripped through the eatery 4 minutes later. The incident is being investigated. Several recent bomb attacks on the mainland have been blamed on separatists in Xinjiang province.
Floods have killed more than 70 people in northern Afghanistan, washing away hundreds of homes and forcing thousands to flee.
About 200 people are missing, while local officials warn that the death toll is expected to rise. The flash floods in a remote mountainous district of Baghlan province forced thousands to abandon their homes. Afghan disaster management officials said they were scrambling to get food and medical aid to the area after torrential rains unleashed the floods. The bodies of women and children were among those recovered from the inundated areas, while scores of people were missing. Authorities have warned that the death toll from the disaster is likely to rise. The local police have appealed to the central government to provide emergency assistance because officers had been overwhelmed by the scale of the disaster. This resident said aid was desperately needed for them to survive as they have lost everything. Outgoing Afghan President Hamid Karzai said in a statement that he was saddened by the loss of life and property in Baghlan province and directed disaster management officials to dispatch emergency relief aid to affected families. Flooding and landslides are common during the spring rainy season in northern Afghanistan, where villages are primitive and unable to withstand the force of the water and mud. Last month, further northeast in Badakhshan province, hundreds of people were killed by a landslide which engulfed around 300 houses.
Still to come on ATV's main news. Chaos from Wan Chai to Happy Valley after water supply cut off.
And find out who Dutch football legend Ruud Gullit thinks will win the World Cup.